my name is Graham and today I'm going to be talking to you about maps. I've been asked to show people how I actually produce the maps in an art package and reproduce something like the Temple of Hope was the example that was given to me. This is a map from Missing Jews, a Call of Cthulhu scenario that can be found in the Keeper's Screen pack, I believe. And it's quite a simple map of a street with a building, and it's got some little pieces of furniture in the actual map itself to represent some of the rooms. And it's got a couple of cars on it as well. We're going to be trying to replicate this map to this standard or higher. And we're going to be looking at doing a brownstone apartment block with 4 apartments and a basement in it as well. So this is going to be a map you can find in the description for download. It's going to have some art assets with it for crime scenes and rituals and that sort of thing. Something you can use for your homebrew games if you want to. Now, you may say, well, why are you doing all this when you have the blueprints and plans for the actual building as well? Just use these things. Well, yes, that is true. You can use these things if you want, but if you zoom in, as you can see, it's rasterized because of the resolution it's been saved at. You can find good resolution images of buildings online, and if that's what you want to use, go for it. But we're going to use this as a template to reproduce something a bit nicer, something more in the veins of what you'd find in Call of Cthulhu scenario. Before we get stuck in, I just want to go over some of the tools we'll be using. We're going to be using some very basic tools for Illustrator. If you don't have Illustrator, there's plenty of vector packages out there that can be substituted that are either free or for a small fee, rather than the extortionate prices that Adobe foists on people as a monthly subscription. At this point, it's pretty much theft. So yeah, you could maybe look at one of the competitors to actually use rather than actually Adobe Creative Suite. So the first thing we're going to look at is the rectangle tool. If you hold down this, you actually get a list of different sizes, different shapes you can pull out and drag. We're looking at mainly the rectangle tool today, and maybe the roundy corner rectangle and the ellipse. So just to select this, and we can drag out a shape onto the actual artboard here. So this is your rectangle. There's 2 elements to every vector that you pull out, even lines. You have fill and you have the line down here. And this box here has no fill. When you drag it over things, it'll be see-through. And it's got the line as well, which is just the outline. You can make the stroke thicker and smaller, thinner, by clicking the up and down, or you can drop down, or you can type in whatever you want to do. And you can colour it differently from here. And just double clicking on these things will bring up the menu for the colour wheel. Or you can use the colour palette over here. To fill, again, you can just come over here, double click, and pick which colour you want. You've got a register code down here if you want something fancy and specific. Just get to go to Pantone and use that. That's pretty much the rectangle. The only other thing to note is that when you're pulling a rectangle out, you get it manipulated. If you hold down Shift, it will be a perfect square. And you'll get perfect circles the same way if you hold down Shift when you're pulling them out, or when you're actually deforming them as well. You have these little handles around the side, used to turn them around or move them in and out, change and manipulate them, and change their shape. That sort of good stuff. Second tool next to the selection tool is the direct selection tool. This will actually manipulate the corners of a box and the lines as well, rather than the box itself. It'll target its components, so you can move the corner in and create something a bit more of freeform if you want. You can also drag onto one of the corners, one of the strokes, lines, and you can manipulate them too. So it's quite comprehensive what you can actually do with these things. Vector programs are quite nice, and I use them a lot. So that's pretty much the basics of what we're going to be using. Other than that, it's going to be the pen tool. Any program you use will have the same similar system. Pen tool is basically point and click. You just click a place in the map on the artboard, and you can create a shape. The only other thing you can do is you can hold it down when you actually press it, and you'll pull out the vector handles for the line, and you can create curves as well, like that. We probably won't be using that too much today. Mainly we'll just be clicking on the big solid sharp shapes. Next to that is the arc tool and the line segment tool. You just drag them out, much like the pen tool, but they're slightly more accurate, and there's some things you can do with them that you can't do with the pen tool. But for this tutorial, we won't need anything like that. We will go on to look at gradients and color later on. So we're going to go ahead and draw out this basement to start off. Everything you do in vectors is creating one small shape and then another, copying them, manipulating them, and building them up into a bigger picture. So what we're going to do first is we're going to learn how to create this outline, which is very, very simple. We're just going to go to line tool, zoom in a bit, and we're going to click once, and you'll see the guideline click out. In here, click again, keep following it around. You might want to turn off the internal color just so you can see what we're doing. Don't have to be super accurate. Out. And join it together at the end. Get that solid line. These angles here are different, so you might want to use the direct tool to manipulate this. Go over here, probably draw a line across. Probably be about there, I think. That looks good enough to me. If you really wanted to make it accurate, you could use a ruler. Go rulers, drag out a ruler onto the map here, and you can see I was just a tiny bit off. Drag it down here for that. It's accurate. So now this is accurate. We can move on to what we want to do, which is make this line solid. The walls are thicker than this line, so we're going to go up to the stroke tool, select this size, and we're going to increase the stroke to 5, maybe 6. Let's go for 6. And that gives us the outline of the building. This is a very simple concept, and only one way of a couple of ways you could have done this. You could have dragged out boxes and added them together or took them away to create this shape. So I'll show you another way using the box tool down here. You can basically see this shape here for the mechanical room. We're going to draw out a box here. I'm going to take away this small space at the bottom here because it's not really doing anything. And I'm going to use arrow keys to nudge vectors up and down. I'm going to nudge it up to there, and that's pretty much the same as what we did before, except it didn't need manipulation for the sort of more detailed areas. So yeah, now we have these things. We're pretty much getting set. So the only thing we need to do now is remove the door. So how we're going to do that on these ones is we're going to expand these objects so they're no longer lines. They're going to be solid objects. We're going to ignore fill because we're only using the lines, and we're going to click OK. Now you can see that they're no longer lines with a thickness. They're actually boxes. Okay. So we have these solid shapes now. One of the tools I didn't show you actually, which we're going to be using, is the Pathfinder tools. These are manipulation tools for solid objects that you can use to add and divide and subtract. So what we want to do is make this doorway appear here. So what we're going to do is we're going to drag out a rectangle. The size and shape of the door, do something like that would be fine. Make sure it overlaps on all the corners, make it really wide. You could pull this off here if you want. Make sure you've got a copy for other doors. And then you're just going to go over here and click minus, and it'll remove the door. It's slightly wider than you need to do it. If you really want accuracy, again, you can go back up to your direct selection tool, drag a box over these two sides, and you can drag back to where you want it. But I want it to be a little bit wider, I think. So that's fine as well. For these pillars, all we're going to be doing is going to our ellipse tool. We're going to be dragging a perfect circle, you're holding shift. And then we're going to be holding shift, and we're going to be holding alt. So it's only going to be able to move in the vertical or the diagonal, horizontal. We're going to drag it and copy it down to this. Then we're going to do it again. We're going to do it a third time. And that's us got our pillars as well. Nice and simple. For this shape here, we're just going to probably draw it out. Oops. Cool. And again, increase your stroke. We're going to go for 4 for internal walls stroke, and we're going to expand these. I'm trying not to use shortcut here and show you everything I'm doing, so I'm clicking on menus where I'd be shortcuts. Otherwise, so click OK for that to be solid and solid. Why we do these things and don't leave these as lines is when you manipulate the size of it, when you're changing the size of the map, the line weight doesn't change with it. So you'll either get super thin lines when you make it large, or super thick lines when you make it small. And if you've got different line weights for different things, like 4 for the internal walls and 6 for the external walls, it's going to be havoc later on for when you want to actually, manipulate the final image, change the vector, and you haven't thought of doing that. The other thing we need to do is the doors and the actual staircase itself. For the actual map, they've got the little dash lines, and they've got solid doors here. So instead of using these, we're going to actually copy the ones which are on the map. I think. Actually, no. Let's do these ones. Let's just do thin rectangles. And let's go for arc tool. We'll put an arc here, like so. Make it red. Expand it. So no. What we're going to do is replace this with a thinner shape. Line for the door. Now we've got a shape and a line here. This is a shape and this is a line. See the line guide in the middle. And this was a shape. So when we expand this out, again no fill. Now we have two shapes, but they're separate. You can either group these together, or what I like to do, it's going to be a shape that I'm not going to be manipulating. I'm going to be using this unite tool. So grab both of them with the direct selection tool and click that, and now they're a solid shape. Okay. Make sure you align it properly first though. There we go. I'm going to make this slightly bigger. Make sure fill that gap. Now, one thing I'm using which I haven't explained actually is layers. Over here in the corner you have a layers menu. You've got several different layers you can turn off on. So you can turn, I've got all the maps on toggle, so you can turn them off, and this is what we've got so far, how our building looks. So we've got most of the basement, we just need to put in the stairs, and it'll be exactly the same as the actual map. So the stairs, for that we're just going to use a rectangle. When you're using layers, make sure you are on the right layer. If it's locked, you won't be able to draw on it, so you don't mess up your own work. We're going to drag a box out here. We're going to make sure is that. Now, again, there's lots of ways you can do this. The perfect way of doing it, but all I'm doing is grabbing these two boxes. We're going to, didn't keep fucking it up. We're going to drag and copy these down here. Group these if you want. Again, drag and copy all you want, all the way up there. You can delete this one, it's not needed. And just for this little banister here, got a thicker line down the side, like so. That to be fill only with no line. Drag it across that. And not to forget, these lines need to be with no fill. So, and there you have it. This is now a basement that's fairly solid, and not a lot else to say. It's a very simple basement. We're going to add some extra stuff to make it prettier, and add on all the extra things which your players will need. But these are the basics of how you produce something like this. This is just the footprint of the building, a couple rooms inside, stairwell, and all the rest of it. So you can drag over this. Because they are all shapes and not lines, we can manipulate the color of everything without fear, and we can just turn that black. And there you go. We turn off the lying layer. We now have a basement. Not a problem. If you know what you're doing, you don't have to expand things quite so much. You can go in and manipulate them. It doesn't really matter, it's just how I think it's easier for people, so you can manipulate the colour for the whole map without actually having to go in and change lines, because if the line weight is different from the fill, you try and do it all at the same time, all the lines without fills will fill, and all the lines you want to rid of will disappear. You don't want to disappear when you try and do it the other way. So this is just the easiest way to do it if you're new to it. Okay, so as you can see, we've got some basic shapes. These basic shapes all grow into something larger if you keep going. More simple things you add, the more elaborate it seems, and you end up with something so simple like this. This is yeah, as simple as it gets, but then you can go on to something like this. This is the Arabella, which is the Hermetic Order of the Silver Twilight that I used for Pharaoh's Shog's Goth campaign. I recreated the building in my own style to make it a bit more sexy, and just tarting up the idea of the building being not just a box with several bland rooms in it. Players had a lot of fun on this, and you can see we got reception rooms, vestibules, sweeping staircases, dining rooms with pantry windows, and all that good stuff. Servants' entrances, elevators, all that. These look a hell of a lot better for the players, and engross them, give them some food for their imagination, rather than just a simple boring room like this. This is not too interesting, and once you start getting into maps, you'll realize that these are very basic maps that come with most of the modules. They're not really pushing the boat out too far, so you can build up simple shapes. This is just a rectangle with another rectangle. This is just a sweeping curve, an arc with another line, a rectangle here. This is just more rectangles and more rectangles. It's very, very simple shapes built up to create something which looks very fancy when you zoom out and take it in. From here, you can go on to fill them in with all sorts of colors and textures to make things look a bit fancier from there. This is a large map I created for 2018 Halloween game that I did. I run a special Halloween game every year using Dead of Night, and this was the one for that year. This was a massive map with 41 rooms. You see that's very detailed, with a lot of items in each room. This gives the players more scope to play with when they enter a sort of situation. They come in here, they can see clothes on the floor, they can see that the bed's been slept in, or the sort of top cover's been pushed down. You've got a dressing room, the bath's maybe full, like this bath that's full of water. You've got this room's been messed up, got clothes lying around, you've got and the rest of it. So yeah, it just feels more lived in doing this sort of thing, and yeah, so this is why people like these maps, because they look a little bit more lived in, even though when you really look at these are incredibly simple shapes that are easily done within a couple of seconds and put on the map. They're not very flashy at all once you zoom in and really take them apart. Another thing to note is these things here. I'm almost certain that these vehicles are 3D models that have been clip arted out and placed on. They're a different style to the rest of the map, and I'd put money on these not being drawn by the artist. They've been taken from probably Google SketchUp and photographed from above in an art package and then placed on the map. And that's how you make maps look good. You yeah, you take stuff, just add it piece by piece and look good. Then you've got color, and you can do a lot with color when it comes down to manipulation. These again are all just individual leaves. I think there's 4 or 5 different types of leaves. They've all been just grouped together and manipulated and copied over and over again. Piles of blood and bones, some huts, all that sort of good stuff. It's a pretty huge map. You've got a pig pen over here, a harbour and all sorts of things, or up here. So yeah, you can do quite a lot with it once you learn the basics, but it all comes back to this is just a shape, a very simple shape that's been coloured in with no line on it, been manipulated again and again. So if you look around, yeah, there's it is there. So you see the same shape again and again, been resized and changed a little bit and then thrown around again. You get this shape here in the water to show the reflection. That's just the same shape here. That's been changed size and slightly altered, and yeah, you get some nice effects. It comes back down to what your art teacher always told you: learn how to make a mark that looks good and bright for what you're trying to achieve, and you won't go far wrong. Alright, so we went away and used simple techniques and finished off the map to this standard. This is a fairly basic map now. with fairly empty rooms, leaving most of the description to the GM's imagination. This has some benefits of flexibility, not making the GM tie to how a map is actually laid out and looked, with certain things and items in the room, so they're left with something they can actually use and mold to their own needs. This is sometimes preferred by GMs, especially if you're running something ad hoc or you've gone off the script, so you can actually put in anything you want here. You can have like a hole in the floor here in this basement flat into the sub basement. You can have all sorts of like blood splatters and ritual sites which aren't visual on the map itself, but would just be in the theatre of the mind. So there's some benefits of leaving it at this stage. However, we're going to go a step further to finish it up with some colour or some black and white textures, and get it to standard. Going back to the map which was originally there, you can see that it is indeed black and white, and there's the furniture there as well. So we're going to put in the floors next, and that's what we're going to be doing moving forward. And we're going to put in a floor and a bit of a street as well, to just bring it up to the same sort of level. So from here, we're going to start with the floors. Okay, so you can see I've started putting the floorings and a few other things in as well, like this, and you can see that it's 100 times better already. What we're going to do, or what I'm going to show you, is how to do some of these sort of techniques, mostly looking at layers and masking. So we're going to be looking at one of the kitchen floors. We're going to make a classic grid of black and white tiles to be using as the floor. So that's pretty much how we're going to be doing it. First of all, we're going to go over here to our layers. You can see I've got most of these locked off now. One of the things I didn't tell you before about the layers is you can actually move them and manipulate them, so they're on different layers. There's different order of how they are approached. If you think of them as a stack of paper, the first one's always going to be on top, and if there's a hole in it, you'll see the second one through it. So you can manipulate these things to change how they perceive on the actual layers itself. So we have the walls on the top layer, so it's always going to be a cap over any of the other layers, and it'll make sure it'll keep everything nice and tidy and hidden away. So we're going to be looking at this, basically the floor for this kitchen here, and we're going to be looking to tile this. So we're going to take a rectangle, we're going to open up our floor layers. We've got it locked just now, so we'll unlock it so we can actually use it. And we're going to draw a box around this room. It doesn't have to be accurate, it just has to be a box. And we're just going to have a white box just now. That's basically just we're holding the actual size of the room. If you pull this off to the side, and now what we want to do is use this as a mask to create a texture in the correct size. So what we're going to do is we're going to draw out some boxes. We're going to draw out 2 boxes. First of all, we're going to draw out one. The second one, we're going to click on the actual desktop, double click, and we're going to say OK. It'll create a box the same size. It will always recreate the same item as you had. So what we do next is we're going to take the second box and we're going to double click on the actual color. We're going to change it to black. So we now have a black and a white box, and we're going to drag that across and it will snap there. And we're going to create a pattern. I'm going to keep dragging these across, holding them, drag them, hold Shift and Alt, and we're going to just keep repeating them until we have that. We're going to shrink these down, holding Shift again so it doesn't distort. And now we're going to group this. Right click and group. That means when you select one, they'll all be selected. You'll be moving them all around, not a problem. So from there, what we want to do is we want to grab this, and we're going to use Shift and Alt again. So we pull down a second layer, and what we're going to do this time is we're going to shift it 1 square to the left. So it does that. And then we're going to group these again as well. Now we have a basics for making your floor. We can do this, and we can just start pulling it out and extracting it in a way which will just build up your actual texture for your floor. Not a problem, dead easy, dead simple. So that's enough, I think. Once you're happy with that, just group it all together. And now we're going to be moving up to here, and we're going to be masking it to the size we've already created. So we want to right click, we want to go to arrange, and we want to go to back. What this is basically each layer has its own little layer system, what is in front of each other. And you can use these arrange in the right click to basically shuffle them around. Why we want this one on top is we want to use this as a mask, so it must always be on top, so it's got the outline of what you want to mask. Line this up to one of the squares, just so it's nice, and we're going to select both of them, right click again, and we're going to make a clipping mask. Once you do that, you have your shape boundary, and the texture within it, or the image within it, is limited to that space. Now if you grab this and pull it back onto the actual kitchen, we have a nice flooring to put there, and that looks pretty good. There is the layer problem happening with the actual furniture. I'll just turn it off just now. I think we actually have that on the wrong layer. Yep, we've got it in the door layer. Let's just fix that. These two things can be removed. And we'll go back to floors. As you can see, this floor is getting grabbed instead of this one. What have I done? So if you have a problem with having a bigger layer that gets selected instead of a smaller layer, you can go up to here to objects, and you can lock it. So this can no longer be selected. And now we're free to select something else which is on top of it. It's just a little bit of maintenance, and we'll just shuffle that into there. We could turn on the line just to give it a line weight if you want, and we could give it a small grout. That's probably too big. Just try that. I prefer that one. So yeah, there you go. There's your kitchen floor. Nice and simple and easy. And yeah, so you keep on doing that. I've done it here for the wood. These are just simple strips, same as what we did there, but just different shape. Here we've got this shape, which is the corner cut off of it, and there's a layer behind it to colour these holes. We've got this one, which is our most complex one here, which is the parquet flooring. It's just 5 strips put together, turned on its side, and you change the colour for the wood strips. And that's how you get that. So these are the simple things to do to make a floor. And again, we're just going to use the same simple technique, and we're going to come back once we've done all that. So another thing you want to do if you want some textures is you can grab images from the internet. This is a bit of marble, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a traced image, much like this carpet here. This is like an image I took, and it's got one colour I picked out, the sort of grey highlight, to create an impression of a carpet for the map. You can do several things like this in Illustrator. Photoshop is better at this sort of stuff though, there's limitations placed on you inside Illustrator. So what we're going to do is we're going to select this. We're going up to here, it's got you some options for graphics if it's a photograph. We have trace image, we want to go to here, the little tracing presets, and we want to take 3 colours. That'll pick out the 3 most dominant colours on that piece of marble, which should give us enough of an idea that it's still marble, but reduce the quality some. This might take a little while, depending on how good your computer is, to actually process the image and turn it all into vectors. Why we want to turn it into a vector is because, so we can scale it and there's no rasterization from res and all that sort of thing, or we can basically use it for certain things as well. So if you zoom in, you can see this is just still an image. Wow, why? Oh, because I stopped the process. Expand. So once we're expanding it, you can see all the actual layers have been broken down, and you can see all the pathways on the actual gradient, and that's what it's going to look like. And this is your piece of marble now. So we're going to do the same again. We're going to mask onto these fireplaces. So we're going to draw a box. And we're going to use that as a mask tool. We're going to take this piece here, I think, and we're going to make a mask of it, and then we've got this, and we can just slide it under this fireplace, and we're going to arrange it to the back side of this layer, which we'll put underneath our fireplace there, and we can nudge that in a bit. Let's give it a bit of space as well. And there you go. That's the marble place hearth for the actual fireplace itself. So that's another easy way to do another sort of texture for your maps on Illustrator. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to look at gradients to make stairs look more 3D. If you look over here on the map we're copying, he has sort of a smooth gradient going all the way up all the stairs. This is just a 1 gradient staircase. It's pretty simple to do. So we're going to try and do something a little bit better here. See these stairs here? Each stair has its own gradient on it, which gives it that sort of depth of the back of the stair and the raising of the next stair, which actually gives the entire case some more sort of dramatic illusion that it is actually 3D. So we're going to do that again. So we're going to click on one of our empty squares here, represents the bottom stair. Going to go to here to gradient, select the gradient tool, and we're going to turn this into a gradient. Here we go. It's the basic sort of setup. We've got this line here that appears over the image. This is our actual gradient here. This box is only what's being filled. If you think about this as a mask for the gradient almost. So what happens if we move this around? The gradient will move with it because the gradient's stuck to this bar. Okay. You can increase the length of this bar, and you can actually rotate it round to change the angles. You can extend it to make it more smooth over a larger area. Or you can reduce it to make it far more dramatic as well. So once you select the gradient, you have this little line set up the way you think you like it. You can come into here, which is the gradient sort of tab, and you can mess around with these gradient sliders here. Moving these will move the gradient as well, but because you're not moving the bar, it's not going to shift. You're only moving the dramatic gradient sort of color, and you have this sort of middle point as well, which you can change to change the dominance of the actual color as well. So this is actually set up most of the way I want it. So I'm gonna probably do something like that. However, this is quite light, so I might want a darker colour. So if you come over to one of these gradients layers, double click on them, it should open a tab, and we're going to choose a darker sort of grey, and that's going to set that up nicely. If you click anywhere here, you can add new tabs, so you can get different colours. You can add all the colours in the rainbow if you want to change one to the other on this line, but simpler is better, and you can just drag these off and remove them if you don't want them as well. And that's pretty much how you do gradients. And once that's set up, you can pass it on to the other stairs. Just select all these, get your eyedropper tool, and there you go. There's your set of stairs. Nice and simple. The eyedropper tool is over here. Nice, easy to get. And yeah, there's your stairs. Probably going to drop the weight of that line a little bit. Yeah, that's a bit better. And there you go. So, using these techniques, I went ahead and finished the map. And this is what the finished article looks like. Basically, with them techniques, I've created pretty much everything you can see on the screen. Nothing is really outlandish, it's just built up from the basics. From newspapers to letters to welcome mats, to broken up furniture and boxes, to scary dolls or kids playing in the basement, to boilers with sort of more of elaborate sort of lighting down here. All this is built up with gradients and lines and fill. That's it. There's nothing fancy here at all. It's just perseverance and adding things in small amounts to build them up to a larger picture. And that's pretty much it. So you'll find this map along with some others I've done in a pack below, and you can use them for whatever you want. And I hope you enjoyed this video. A little bit long, a little bit tedious perhaps, but I hope you had fun, and you can create something like this yourselves as well in the future. But that's how you make maps for Call of Cthulhu. So with that, thanks for watching.